If you have the iPhone 11, 12, and 13 Pro and you want to transition to the 14 Pro, I have found 10 good reasons to upgrade and 2 reasons to not upgrade. The first and the main reason to upgrade to the newer iPhone 14 Pro is that 48 megapixel camera. The wide angle lens has an improved 48 megapixel camera that is 4 times the amount on the 13 Pro, whereas the telephoto lens and the ultra wide lens remain the same. Now, a huge advantage this has over the 13 Pro is with its larger sensor. Its 2x and 3x function allows for better zoomed in pictures without losing any quality. You also have an extra focal length with only 3 lenses. So is there a significant difference in picture quality and video quality? And the answer is yes, especially when it comes in zoomed in pictures. There is clearly more detail with the iPhone 14 Pro thanks to those new wider sensors. When it comes to the standard wide angle lens, then the difference isn't so clear because the iPhone camera by default takes 12 megapixel images. Now, to use the 48 megapixel camera, you need to shoot in ProRAW, and this allows you to capture the most amount of detail possible that allows for impressive crops using the full power of the main wide angle sensor. But you don't want to do this often as one picture ranges between 75 megabytes to 100 megabytes. Now, when it comes to low light images, Apple said it is 2 to 3 times better in low light thanks to the new Photonic Engine AI. I mean, it's better, but I don't think it is 2 or 3 times. Now, the second reason to get the iPhone 14 Pro is that front-facing camera. Now, if we're being honest, it wasn't so great with the older model iPhones, but the aperture in this is now longer, going from an f1.9 to an f2.2, which means it's going to be better in low light. We also get autofocus on the new camera, which enables people to take closer shots even close to the eye. Now, that's pretty sweet. So if you're an influencer of any kind, this is actually a pretty big deal. Number 3 is the most obvious thing when looking at the display, and that is the dynamic island. Now, the iPhone 14 Pro has a dramatic change, or has seen a dramatic change, especially when it comes to the display with the new dynamic island, which is just a revised notch, or the lack of a notch if we're being honest. It does not work in the most seamless manner, but I think I love how intuitive it is. I also imagine the amount of potential this can get to. Now, here are a few examples of what you can do with it. When listening to music, you can adjust the controls of the music by pressing and holding it. You can also get into the current app in the background by tapping it. I love how when you exit the app, it slides back in very smoothly. Now, for calls and timers, you can get access to them here as well. With timers, you can see the countdown without having to go into the app, and a lot more apps need to be optimized for the dynamic island because SoundCloud, for example, is not optimized and it doesn't do or have the same effect as Spotify. Now, I see this happening probably next quarter of 2023. Now, I don't really have anything bad to say about it. Maybe it is a bit more intrusive when watching videos than the notch, but I see my eyes adjusting to it the same way the notch was. Number 4 is the always on display. Now, if you have an Android device, you've probably had this feature since the first Samsung Galaxy thereabout. Now, finally, it's here in the iPhone 14 Pro, and it works a bit differently the Apple way. Now, when you unlock your phone, it goes into a low powered state that's using little energy, but you can still see almost everything going on your display. Compare that to, say, the Pixel 6 Pro, for example, and it's vastly different. It's also using 1 Hz when locked, so it's not using a lot of energy, and according to Apple, this won't affect its battery life. Now, I will be the judge of that. Either way, I'm not sure I really like it, but a plus side though is that I can always see my album art of the music I'm listening to, so it's kind of like a very good and different artistic choice. Now, same thing goes if you have a picture of yourself, it fades into the background without losing any quality or color to the image. The iPhone 13, 12 or 11 does not have this feature, nor will it have it even with software updates. So that is something to think about. It's nice to have your notifications just pop up from the bottom of the screen while still dim, as opposed to the whole phone lighting up like it's 4th of July. Now, in terms of if this affects your battery life, I don't think it does. So far, I have averaged about 8 to 10 hours of screen on time with everything on, from the always on display to the 2000 nits display. And speaking of display, that brings me to the 5th reason to get the iPhone 14 Pro, and the display has seen some serious upgrades this year. Now, the first is that the refresh rate now goes all the way down to 1 Hz as the minimum, which enables the always on display to work properly. The second is the brightness. Apple upgraded the display to 2000 nits as opposed to 1200 on the iPhone 13 Pro. So that is almost double that is on the iPhone 14 Pro. But be careful though, the amount of brightness will affect the battery life as well, but it will also make your phone hot. On the plus side, you already know the iPhone 14 Pro will now be on the same length as the 14-inch MacBook Pro, the 12.9-inch iPad Pro, and the Pro Display XDR when watching HDR video. Okay, the 6th reason to get the iPhone 14 Pro is the battery life. Now hold on now and hear me out. Now if you do have an iPhone 13 Pro, you might as well skip this part of the video because I am talking to people that have the iPhone 11 and the 12 Pro. Now the 14 Pro has an improved battery capacity with a 3200 mAh of battery from the 3095 on the 13 Pro. Now on paper, it is a nice upgrade, and if we're being honest, if you turn off the always on display, you would probably get more battery out of this. But so far, I have averaged 8 to 10 hours of screen on time, and it is very good in my opinion. Now the seventh reason to upgrade is the more accurate GPS on the iPhone 14 Pro. It uses dual GPS antennas, the old L1 and the brand new L5 antenna, which can locate you quicker and easier if you're in a city with taller buildings like Toronto, for example. The eighth and ninth reason to upgrade is the new cinematic mode that shoots in 4K compared to the 1080p on the 13 Pro, and you can also shoot in 24 frames per second in cinematic mode. Also, we have action mode that is exclusive to the 14 Pro, and the 14 Pro Max. Now, because it also has a bigger sensor, it crops in more, and within this mode, it shoots in 2.8K as opposed to 4K, which is honestly fine by me. It takes your videos and crops it to enable less shakes, and in turn, gives more stabilization when shooting. You can run with it and get awesome footage. Now, it's not the most perfect thing, but it's definitely better than the standard mode. So if you have kids, or you have a dog, or you have a cat, and you just want to get great footage, then you should consider getting the iPhone 14 Pro. Now, will I use it very often? Most likely not, but like I said, it is a great feature to have, especially when the time comes. And the 10th and final reason to upgrade to the iPhone 14 Pro are the colors, in a way. Now, some people don't like it, but this deep purple color was calling my name when I got it, so I picked it up really quickly. The space black is also great because it's also much darker in person than the videos online. I mean, we also have the silver and gold, which are standard colors for Apple at this point. Now, for the 3 reasons to not buy the iPhone 14 Pro is the fact that it looks exactly the same as the 13 Pro and the 12 Pro, if we're being honest. Now, the buttons are in the same location, it is the same stainless steel frame. The iPhone 14 Pro is wider though, but if you pick it up, it is the same experience, the same feeling. Everything is literally the same. The second reason, which is the main reason really, is the lack of a SIM card tray with the new eSIMs. Fortunately and unfortunately, the US is the only one that it's affecting. If you're out of the US like me, you will get a SIM card tray. Now, while eSIMs are like the next innovation, I don't think the world is really ready for it, because if you go to another country and you acquire a SIM card to reduce the roaming fees, what exactly is a person supposed to do? Now, my advice is, if you're in the US and you travel a lot, you might want to consider getting the iPhone 13 Pro instead. Now, do you think the iPhone 14 Pro is worth the upgrade? Let me know in the comments. And thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, please make sure you click that like button and consider subscribing to the channel. My name is KJOS, and I will catch you guys in the next one where we talk all things tech.